Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a closer look at a life that's just fascinated millions, the journey of Lionel Messi.
Yeah, it's a great one, and we've got some really interesting source material to dig into for this. Excerpts from a biography, official records, interviews, news reports too, and, his own public statements. Gives us a lot to work with.
Exactly. And our goal here isn't just, rattling off stats, although believe me, the stats are pretty mind-blowing.
Oh, they are.
But we want to really get into the key moments, the struggles he faced, the big wins, and maybe what lessons we can pull from a life like his.
Yep.
It's about looking beyond the pitch, understanding the person, the impact.
Well, think about the story arc we're going to trace, from really quite humble beginnings in Argentina, facing a major health issue right off the bat, then making that huge leap, crossing continents, dealing with the massive pressure of fame, personal setbacks, and then finally getting that ultimate prize in football.
It's a story of, yes, incredible talent, obviously, but these sources really highlight it's just as much about sheer determination and resilience. So yeah, let's dive in. Let's unpack what the sources tell us, starting right back at the beginning in Rosario.
Okay, so born June 24, 1987, Rosario, Argentina. Grew up in, a pretty standard working class family. His dad worked in a steel factory. His mom was a cleaner. Simple life, close family, modest neighborhood. Very grounded.
And the football thing seems like it started almost immediately.
Yeah.
The biography mentions him just kicking a ball around constantly from age 4 with his brothers, his cousins, and his grandmother, Celia. She comes up as a really key figure early on, pushing for him to join a local club his dad coached when he was only 5.
That early spark, though, it runs straight into a major hurdle. Around age 10, he gets diagnosed with GHD, growth hormone deficiency.
Right.
And this was, seriously holding back his growth. Reports from back then said he was only about, 4'2" by age 11?
Wow. That's a huge obstacle, especially for a kid dreaming of playing football professionally.
Yeah.
And the treatment. Daily injections, expensive ones, like $900 a month.
Yeah, roughly. And for a working class family in Argentina, then, especially with the economy, that was just out of reach. Impossible, really.
But his skill, even then, it was something else. Playing for Newell's old boys youth teams, even being so small, he was apparently just dazzling. Dribbling vision, playing against older, bigger kids, and often, dominating.
That's where the nickname La Pulga, the flea, came from. Suits him, doesn't it? His agility, his size.
The flea, yeah. So the money trouble for the treatment, plus the wider economic problems in Argentina, that really pushed the family to start looking elsewhere, didn't it?
Exactly. And that's when FC Barcelona comes onto the scene. 2000, he's just 13. His father manages to arrange trial over in Spain.
Just imagine making that call as a parent. Leaving everything. Moving across the world to a totally different culture, all based on a maybe. The sources really paint it as this enormous, brave gamble.
It really was. And accounts from that trial, they say the Barcelona coaches were just blown away by his skill. Completely.
Yeah.
But still, the concerns were there. His size, the cost of the treatment, still hanging over everything. It wasn't like an instant yes.
And this is where that famous story comes in, right? The napkin.
Yes. That's one of those details from the biography that just sticks. Carlos Rexach, Barcelona's sporting director, he was apparently so convinced, despite the issues, that he just grabbed a paper napkin during a lunch meeting and, wrote out a basic agreement right there to sign him and cover the medical costs.
The napkin contract. Incredible. Sounds like fiction.
Yeah.
But even with that commitment, settling in Spain,
Yeah.
it wasn't easy for him, was it? A quiet kid, quite reserved.
No, reports say he really struggled, really homesick. His mother and siblings actually went back to Argentina after about a year, so it was just him and his father left in Spain.
Wow. And on top of that emotional stuff, he had physical setbacks too in the academy early on.
Yeah.
Broken bones.
Yeah, a broken cheekbone, a fractured tibia. Constant tests of his resolve. But he just kept going in La Masia, kept outplaying older kids, kept learning.
And that dedication, it paid off pretty fast. He gets his first team debut for Barca, October 16, 2004. He's only 17.
And then less than a year later, first goal, youngest scorer for the club at the time.
His talent really started exploding under Frank Rijkaard, the coach then. By the 2006-07 season, he's a regular starter. And those comparisons to Maradona start popping up.
Especially after that goal against Getafe, the one that looked almost identical to Maradona's legendary solo run.
Yeah, I remember that. But the real, global explosion.
Yeah.
Most accounts point to Pep Guardiola taking over in 2008.
Oh, absolutely. Guardiola basically redesigned the team's tactics around Messi, often used him in that false 9 position.
Right, letting him drop deep, connect the play, but still be the main goal threat. Genius move.
And that first season under Pep, 2008-09, just historic. They won everything. La Liga, Copa del Rey, Champions League, the treble. Messi scores 38 goals.
And that header in the Champions League final against Manchester United, against Rio Ferdinand, who's way taller, that just cemented his place, didn't it?
Totally. Iconic moment. And then came basically a decade of just dominance. It's hard to even describe. He just rewrote all their record books.
The numbers are just wild. 8 Ballon d'Or awards, 10 La Liga titles, 4 Champions Leagues just with Barcelona.
He's Barca's all-time top scorer, 672 goals in, 778 games? Holds the La Liga scoring record, too, 474 goals.
And that crazy year, 2012, 91 goals in one calendar year. Club and country combined. It seems impossible.
It really does. Just an unparalleled level of success at club level. But as the reports from the time often pointed out, his story with the Argentina national team, that was very different for a long, long time.
Yeah, real contrast. Full of difficulty, wasn't it?
Immense pressure, the weight of the whole country's expectations, always being compared to Maradona and the '86 World Cup win. And often, the team just didn't seem to click the same way Barcelona did.
Which led to some absolutely crushing defeats in finals. 3 big ones, back-to-back almost.
Yeah, the 2014 World Cup final lost to Germany. Then the Copa América finals in 2015 and 2016. Both lost on penalties to Chile. Just heartbreaking.
And after that 2016 loss, the news report showed him just visibly devastated, actually announcing he was retiring from international football.
Yeah, he said he just couldn't take the pressure, the disappointment anymore. It raises a really interesting point, How does someone so successful at club level deal with that kind of repeated failure and criticism for his country?
It speaks volumes about the unique kind of burden he was carrying. Luckily for Argentina, though, he did come back. That love for his country was too strong, I guess.
And what came next was, a pretty powerful redemption arc. Under a new coach, Lionel Scaloni, the team seemed more united. A sort of revitalized Messi led them to win the 2021 Copa América.
Finally. Ended that 28-year trophy drought for Argentina. Huge moment.
And then the absolute peak. The sources all described the 2022 World Cup in Qatar as the defining moment. Captained Argentina to victory, scored 7 goals, 2 in that insane final against France, named player of the tournament.
And didn't he just lead them to another Copa América win recently in 2024?
He did indeed, just further cementing that international legacy after all the struggles.
Moving away from the pitch a bit, the sources also give us glimpses into his personal life, which seems surprisingly normal. Grounded, maybe, considering the fame.
Yeah, he married Antonella Roccuzzo, who he's known since childhood. They have 3 sons.
And interviews and reports consistently mention how important family is to him. Despite being, arguably one of the most famous people on earth, he keeps a fair bit of privacy and seems to put family first.
His ties to Rosario, his hometown, and his Catholic faith are often mentioned too. Things that seem to keep him anchored, keep him humble amidst it all.
The sources also mention his charity work, the LeoMessi Foundation, focusing on children's healthcare and education, especially back in Argentina.
Right, and he's a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, too. Funded hospitals, schools. Seems like a genuine commitment to giving back.
But like we said, it wasn't all smooth sailing. We touched on the GHD, the homesickness, but there were other big challenges too, weren't there? Public ones.
Definitely. I mean, the GHD wasn't just the diagnosis, it was the process. 3 years of injecting himself daily with growth hormones. As a kid, that's a massive physical and emotional load.
Yeah, you forget the daily reality of that. And then later, there was that whole tax issue in Spain around 2016.
Right, the conviction for tax fraud alongside his father. They got suspended sentences, paid fines, but reports say it definitely hit his public image and caused a lot of personal stress.
It's interesting how those off-field things become part of the narrative, isn't it? And then maybe the biggest shock for many fans, 2021, leaving Barcelona.
Yeah, that was huge. Forced out, essentially. The club's financial mess meant they just couldn't register a new contract for him under La Liga rules.
For 21 years there, since he was 13. That farewell press conference, he was clearly heartbroken. Descriptions paint a really emotional picture.
Yeah, so he goes to Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, wins the league twice there, but reports generally suggest he never quite settled, never quite hit those same Barcelona heights in Paris.
And finally, the sources often touch on just the sheer mental weight of it all. Being that famous, that scrutinized. Interviews mention anxiety before big games, the constant pressure, especially with Argentina for all those years.
Even for someone with his gifts, the psychological side is clearly immense, very real.
Yet, when you look at the whole story, through all of that, The health scares, the legal troubles, leaving his home club, adjusting to new places. His resilience just shines through, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That seems to be the constant thread. He moves to Inter Miami in MLS in 2023, and reports say he instantly lifts the whole club, wins them the League's Cup, brings massive attention to the league, still adapting, still performing.
The core drive, he often says in interviews, it seems pretty simple at heart. Just play football, make his family proud. His journey from that small kid in Rosario to being called the Joe 8, the greatest of all time. It's obviously about talent, but the sources really frame it as talent plus relentless work, humility, and that incredible ability to bounce back.
His legacy, based on all this, it really is more than just the stats, isn't it? He changed how people saw the game, that vision, that precision, that creativity.
Yeah.
It felt different.
Yeah, almost otherworldly sometimes. And if you're looking for takeaways, for inspiration from his path, there are recurring themes in the material, right?
Definitely. Passion, dedication, those are obvious. But also that incredible resilience we talked about. A surprising level of humility considering the fame. Just sheer hard work, the importance of a strong support system like his family. Adaptability too, and that commitment to giving back.
So where are we now? It's May 2025. The latest reports confirm he's still playing for Inter Miami, still 37, still performing well, lifting the MLS profile.
Right. Contract runs until December 2025, I think.
Yeah.
And there's always speculation, isn't there? Will he go back to Newell's old boys in Argentina? Will he retire?
And internationally, he's hinted the 2026 World Cup might be his last big tournament, trying to defend the title.
Which is amazing in itself. Even now, at this stage, that competitive fire and that connection to playing for Argentina seem as strong as ever.
So yeah, wrapping up this deep dive into the sources.
Yeah.
We've traced that arc. Little kid in Rosario, facing GHD, leaving home, through immense pressure, big setbacks of treatment, homesickness, injuries, those final losses, the tax stuff, leaving Barca.
All leading to just unparalleled success, and then that powerful redemption with Argentina on the world stage.
And the principles that seem to define him, based on these sources.
Passion, yeah. Dedication, resilience, definitely. Humility, hard work, adaptability, giving back.
Yeah, that seems to cover the main threads from the material we looked at. His legacy, then it feels like it's more than just the records, as astounding as they are.
Yeah.
It's how he changed the sport with his unique way of playing, and how he inspired so many, not just with skill, but by showing you can overcome huge obstacles and stay true to who you are, to your roots.
So after digging through all this, what does it mean for you listening? Well, it definitely highlights perseverance, chasing your passion, but maybe also it shows the incredible, complex weight of expectation that even the very best have to carry. It's not always easy, even at the top.
And here's maybe a final thought, something really interesting. Think about this. He reached the absolute summit of fame, success, wealth, everything.
Yeah.
Yet the consistent theme across all these sources is how deeply connected he remained to his simple origins, his family.
That definitely comes through.
So what does that tell us? About finding balance, keeping your identity. When you're under that intense spotlight 24/7, it makes you wonder, is true greatness just about the achievements? Or is it equally about staying grounded, staying connected to what really matters, even when the world wants to pull you in a million directions?
That's a really good question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the life and legacy of Lionel Messi.